Oh, yeah. Let's go, baby. What's up,
Right,
Diego
that sizzle
Sanchez?
reel
How are you,
is-
buddy?
That's lit.
Yeah, well, I've got a great sidekick. I'm not responsible for that opening. How you been?
I've been really good. How are you doing?
Good. It's nice to see you. Hair looks perfect. You got your HousingWire t-shirt on. We're ready to rock and roll.
Ready to rock.
President of HousingWire. It's, nice job title. Nice job. Nice publication. You guys made such a splash last year. I've written about it, but I was really blown away by the events that you all put on. The gathering in Arizona just blew me away. You know how I felt about it. How are you going to top that this year? I know we're going to Denver, right?
Yeah. So last year, like you said, I feel like we finally got it. Like we finally knew what we were doing when it came to live events. And that gathering was a special experience. And it was the first time we were bringing together mortgage executives with real estate executives. And we didn't know how well it was going to work, but you were there. I think it worked really, really well. It kind of felt like we were bringing the whole housing industry together. And we had so much momentum from the gathering that we decided to do events in between gatherings, right? So we started these one-day summit concepts, and first one was AI Summit, sold out event, really interesting set of speakers. Then we did the IMB Summit, focusing in on independent mortgage banks, great set of speakers. Again, we sold it out. And so what we're thinking about for 2025 is more of the same. And I'll talk about our formula for events in a minute, but we're going to do 3 one-day summits. So we're going to do a housing economic summit, and that actually comes up next month, end of February. We're going to do the AI summit again. And then we're going to do another IMB summit. And then, of course, you already mentioned it. We've got the Gathering 2025, which is in Colorado Springs. So just outside of Denver at a really beautiful property called the Broadmoor. And I'm telling you, this is one of the coolest resorts in the country. And it's particularly good for the kind of event that we do, where you have half day of content and then a half day of people catching up with each other through activities, golfing, fishing, hiking, whatever you want to do on this property that is really amazing in Colorado Springs.
Can't wait for that. And the Housing Economic Summit's coming up on the 26th in Dallas at the George W. Bush Library. So right around the corner, you've got some amazing speakers. You probably have a couple of tickets left, not too many. I know you've been selling like hotcakes, but what is going to happen on that day, and why should people attend?
I think that this event is really perfectly timed right before this crucial spring housing market. And we've had a really difficult stretch for a couple of years now on the mortgage side and on the real estate side. And I think, we might start to see, things perk up a little bit this spring. I don't know if it's going to be huge growth over last year.
Yeah.
And we can talk more about that later in the episode. But I do think we're going to see some growth. And we've got a bunch of speakers who have already put out forecasts for the year. And what they'll be able to do is they'll be able to give everybody, kind of a strategic update on what they think's going to happen in the spring housing market and for the rest of 2025. So it's people like Logan Mohtashami, Mike Simonson, Barry Habib, folks who everyone knows and everyone turns to when it comes to housing economic data, and they'll be live.
They'll be in one place. Yeah, it's one thing to get a little piece of someone like this, but then when they're all together, it really lands. And I have to say, I had the most amazing year in 2024, and it really all started with the momentum from the gathering. I mean, I just driving to the airport with Steve Majerus, the CEO of Synergy One, who I've developed, a great relationship with since then. I just went deeper with so many people. I met Flavia for the first time there. I got the All of Us movement really going as you guys allowed me to use your stage for the first ever group photo, the interaction among your peers is what really just blew me away. And then I attended the next event. I think it was the IMB Summit, right? And that was even better. I mean, and that's the thing I love most is, look, the content is great. People show up. It's very engaging, but it's the effort that you put into it being a well-rounded experience and making sure that everybody gets together in a room.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about the room where the conversations are going on, like the guests are. I'm talking about a room where you always carve out time for people to interact socially. And that's where you really make a lot of headwinds and a lot of strides. So can't wait to see you again. I'm looking like I'm going to head to the Housing Economic Summit in Dallas. When I buy my ticket, I'll let you know so you can add me to that list. So HousingWire really, to me, exploded on the scene. I mean, I know you've been there for 6+ years. So this has been a part of your everyday life for a long time now. But I really feel like you hit another gear a couple of years ago and then really just took control last year. Is that right or no? Is that just because I wasn't paying close enough attention?
No, I think you've got it right. And the reason that I think you've got it right is, HousingWire has been around for since 2008, actually. So a long time. And but most of that history, the publication focused very specifically on mortgage. So it was a mortgage media company. And so you'd probably heard of it. You've been in mortgage for a while. But I think what actually brought us, to the top of the heap is, and this is maybe a little bit counterintuitive, we actually started focusing more on real estate. And we started focusing more on title, appraisal and valuation. And we started to look at the housing industry more holistically. And I actually think that made us more relevant and more important to the mortgage professional, because every mortgage professional needs to know what's happening over on the real estate side. What are your real estate partners up to? What's causing them concern, or what's helping them grow? And so when we think about the housing industry holistically, I think that kind of like stepped up our game and put us on the radar of a lot of executives, who need to work across those different verticals. They can't just be siloed in mortgage or siloed in real estate. And so I think we've really developed a superpower of looking at the housing industry on a holistic basis.
There's a lot of crossover too, especially now that the NAR lawsuit, which no one saw what happened coming. I think a lot of people hoped that it would be broken up, but that even brings us even closer. It makes it even more relevant because you have companies out there now paying real estate agents on the mortgage side, getting them licensed. And of course, there was the December 15th, 2022 HUD letter, which talked about dual compensation and went to great lengths to make it so everybody knew that real estate agents could be paid on mortgage transactions. And then since then, it's even more important now that we're in tune to what's happening on the real estate side. So with that in mind, how does HousingWire feel about the NAR settlement, post analysis? What are we seeing? What are we tracking? And are we just now going to see the impact that renewals are here right in front of us?
I think that there was a lot of pain involved with the commission lawsuits, with the settlement and the aftermath of the settlement. But I actually think that the housing industry and the consumer is going to be better off because of all that pain. I think what we're seeing is a real flight to quality in terms of the real estate profession. And so those agents, the listing agents, and the buyer's agents who are professional and who give good advice to the consumer, they're winning. And you're seeing the real estate professionals that are more on the bubble, maybe do 1 or 2 transactions a year. You're seeing them fall to the wayside. And again, I think that's better for everybody. But it does mean for the mortgage professional, when you think about those realtor partnerships, you need to make sure that you're partnering with the folks who are in it for the long term. The professional agents. But overall, I'm viewing this as mostly a positive thing.
Oh, good. So I love following you, by the way. What's it like to be on the other side of the table? Because you're normally interviewing people. I mean, how often do you, like out of every 10 interviews, how much are you on this side and how much are you on my side?
I'm probably on the I'm probably interviewing 95% of the time, I would say.
Is there a different vibe? Do you have a different vibe
Yeah,
you feel right now? You look a little, you're standing up, you're sitting up a little straighter. I'm all bent over.
It's different. I do like it. I do like talking about HousingWire and the news, but it's harder. It's definitely harder to receive the questions and have to think about how you're going to respond, as opposed to like being able to write your seed questions in advance and do it that way.
Well, I may let you ask me some questions towards the end.
Happy to do it.
You know, we're both sort of have journalism in our veins, so we can just go back and forth. What's interesting and where you really hit my radar is I did a couple of posts as I've been posting more over the last 18 months or so. You had before I knew you, before I so fondly knew you, and ever met you, you would jump into my posts here and there, and you'd give a pretty strong, I don't remember specifically what it was, but you'd call me out, right? Like you kind of helicoptered me. You've been known to do that here and there. I know you have a lot of opinions, and how do you straddle that, like the responsibility to be fair and balanced with how passionate you are about housing? Is that something you have to watch out for? Like read your words very carefully before you hit submit?
I do have to watch myself a little bit, but I also think that so I am not a journalist. I am, however, an executive of a media company. And so, one of the things that we do at HousingWire that I think is really important is, Sarah Wheeler, our editor-in-chief, James Kleiman, who you know well, the managing editor of our newsroom, those newsroom efforts are independent of what I do in the business and how I run the business. So they have the ability to write about things and source things, and I don't have really a say in what that is. They can cover what they want, and my impact and my ability to say, "Hey, you're going to write about this today." We really try to keep an arm's length relationship between me on the business side and what the newsroom does. But that, I am an opinionated person, and I believe very strongly in a lot of things. Like
the election that just took place, and the fact that you're not the reddest guy on the planet. I'm not either normally.
No,
you jumped in a little bit there when there was a clean sweep. I know I'm cutting you off, but I want to get into politics. Why not? Because I know I can get you fired up. Get you so fired up. Like, let's pivot to that for a minute.
Yeah.
How are you feeling about the Republican administration coming in? Like, do you have any hope that somehow there'll be more normalcy in mortgage, less regulations, like something good will come out of it, even though you may not be a red guy?
Yeah. No, I didn't vote for this administration, but I do think that there is a lot of opportunity to make the housing industry better, and really solutions can come from both sides, and I really strongly believe that debate and both sides working together as much as possible actually does lead to the best outcome. And so, I'm hopeful that some of the people that Trump puts into place that deal with housing will be focused on making the housing industry better, and building more homes. Like, he's a real estate guy. Maybe he can help us build more homes, which at the end of the day is maybe the most important thing out there besides mortgage rates.
Yeah.
And so, having good housing supply and increasing that supply, I bet a Republican administration can do pretty well with that.
You're getting pretty LinkedIn famous, Diego. Do you know that? You're up to close to 11,000 followers now. What's that journey been like? Like if somebody said to you 5 years ago, hey, you're going to be on LinkedIn posting information that people want to see, and you're going to have 11,000 followers, and sometimes you're going to go viral, what would you have said?
I would have said, no way. First of all, I would have said, I just won't be that active on the platform. I'll just be kind of sitting in the background. What an amazing platform. And I feel like, the year where we discovered, that HousingWire is holistically covering the industry and really rising to the top, it's the same year that I discovered the power of the LinkedIn platform. And I do almost all of my business development on LinkedIn now. And so the reason that I post content, the reason that I try to be active with other people's content is, first of all, I'm passionate about the issues. Like you said, I'm opinionated, but also like, it's just great business. It's great business for you and I to have developed this great relationship that we have.
Oh,
right?
man, I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like, it's great business, and it's great for me personally. I like being your friend. And
me too.
I like being friends with all the other folks that I've met on LinkedIn.
But you say that, but then you are running it is a journalist publication, right? So you have to sometimes call people out for not doing the right thing or speeding. How do you juggle that? Like I look at it as there's the friendship and the relationship side, but then there's the business side.
Totally.
We all have to be going the speed limit. We all have to be doing the right things, right? And I'm sure there have been, I'm guessing, well, let me say I'm not sure. Let me ask you, have there been instances where you or the publication has had a great relationship with someone that
yes,
it is what it is. You got to call it out because that is your fiduciary. Tell us about that and how you approach that.
Yeah. And so that's absolutely true. It happens pretty regularly, right? As I get friendly and get to know more executives in the industry, we're inevitably going to write something that they're not going to like. And so, typically I just have a conversation with them and just say up front, look, HousingWire can't be its best unless we're covering it straight. And sometimes you might be on the side of that you don't like as much, or that is not as comfortable. However, we will always listen to your side of the story. And
that's a difference. That's a difference. Like the New York Post won't do that. They'll just slam you, run the bus completely over you, and then kick you when you're dead.
We would never do that. In fact, to us, that is journalistic malpractice. You have to get, and maybe folks won't give you a response, and that's fine. We're still going to run with the story, and we'll say that person decided not to comment, or that company decided not to comment. But you have to give people the opportunity to talk about what you're writing about and to give their response. And if we don't do that, that's just a box that our journalists have to check off before we're going to publish the story. You
went to Harvard.
I did.
And then you got an MBA from Columbia University. You're a really smart guy. No question about it. I barely made it through University of Maryland. I mean, I literally scratched and clawed to get my C's.
You are also a very smart guy, Greg.
In different ways. But I want to ask you, when did you realize you had, those gifts? Because those are gifts, man. I mean, let's just call it what it is. You're a very intelligent, bright person. Like, at what point in your life were you being told, this person's got a special brain?
Yeah. So, probably when I was in middle school, I did start to hear things like that, but I also had a little bit of a difficult upbringing, and so those messages, sometimes I tuned into them and sometimes I didn't, because there was a lot going on, and so I didn't really start to make use of the talents in a meaningful way, until I got to college. Yeah, I'm thankful.
Well, that's hard to believe. I mean, you don't get into Harvard with a 890 SAT score, so you had to be doing something right in high school.
I definitely was doing some things that were right for sure. I also went to high school at the only public high school in Cambridge, where Harvard is. And that high school did have a little bit of and probably still has a little bit of a town gown relationship with the college. So I took advantage of that.
You're telling us that your SAT score was not perfect, or are you not telling us that?
It was not perfect. My GMAT for business school was better. But and I didn't do badly, but I was relatively athletic, and I had a story, and I think that a lot of those elite colleges and universities, will listen to a story.
What was the story about? Was it about resilience and grit?
Yes, resilience. Absolutely. Totally. Had to deal with stuff in middle school and high school that made it tough, and got through it. I think that's a story that resonates.
Yeah, I can relate. Believe me. Yeah. Sometimes we ought to just do a story about our backgrounds, and we all have them, right? Like it's amazing how our upbringing shapes who we all are. It's wild. And, the more shit you go through, I believe the more resilient you become, and the grit you can't read in a book for sure. What fascinated you when you were a kid? Like, did you like putting stuff together? Like, what was the one thing that you did, when you got past the Thomas, the train and, Caillou and all that stuff? Like, was it reading? Was it building? What started, what piqued your interest big time?
Yeah, I did a lot of reading. I watched a lot of television. I really like television. And so all those shows in the 80s, I know really well.
Name a few.
Like the A-Team, Incredible
Hulk, Mr. T,
Dukes of Hazzard,
Biggie That Fool.
Yeah, I mean, I just loved all those shows.
You ever watch Get Smart?
I didn't.
Maxwell Smart. Yeah, that's maybe before your time. I'm a little bit older than you are. So,
but like Saturday morning cartoons, and then you go into wrestling. I loved wrestling. So I definitely watched a lot of television, and then I played soccer and I swam, and so I was, I did sports stuff.
You're in pretty good shape too.
I do like to stay in shape, and I think it's actually really important. I think you're a guy that stays in shape as well. I like to start off every day with doing something. It just gets the energy going, and as we get older, I want to keep getting older. I want to live a long time, so I like to stay in shape.
So you and I have something else in common other than the grit. We both have 2 boys.
Yes.
You're a boy dad. I'm a boy dad. It's so much fun, isn't it?
It is. So, you talk about grit and resilience. I think there's another aspect of a difficult upbringing. A lot of people will try to correct that upbringing with their own kids, right? And so I love living life with them and enjoying them and having them enjoy me. I love that they play soccer as well. Cool. And they're better than I ever was, which is great too. So yeah, I love being a dad, but I particularly like being a boy dad.
Is it hard to be present? I'm very challenged with that. It's very hard for me to, if it's hard to put my phone down. I know that sounds disgusting, right? Now my kids have phones. So I have a 12 and a 14-year-old. And I know one of your kids is in, I think Oliver's in 7th grade, right?
That's right. Yeah. He just got his phone this year.
What grade is Rowan in?
He is in 4th grade.
Got it. Okay. So no phone for Rowan yet.
No phone until the absolute last moment possible.
Yeah. So how do you remain present? Is that a challenge for you as the president of a major publication?
It can be difficult, but there's a couple of things that I commit to. One of those is I take them to their practices and their games and their tournaments. The games are too fun to watch. Like I'm not going to have a phone out because I'm too entertained by watching them get better at something and really love it. And then, we do family dinner every evening where the phones go away. And then we try to do things over the weekend where we put the phones down. So like, it's just, I guess you got to be conscious about it. And now that Oliver has a phone, everybody just has to put them away, put them in a basket for an hour or two so we can catch up.
It's not easy though.
It's really not easy. It can be easy to slip into, everybody's just on their screen and just hanging out in their own individual bubble. But we try to counteract that as much as we can.
You have any questions for me, Diego? You want to take over the interview? We have a couple more minutes here.
Yeah, Greg, I would love for you to tell me about what you're thinking about 2025. It seems like it's going to be a little bit better, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be a lot better. How are you planning your business and what you do on LinkedIn around this year?
Yeah, so two components to the business from my lens. One is NFM lending, where I work. I've been here for a really long time. Got here in 1998, left in 2002 to open up my own company for 7 years, and then came back with 106 of my employees 16 and a half years ago. So we were profitable. We made 35, 40 basis points in 2024. So I think all that to say, I think we've settled into a new norm. I think that, look, everybody understands rates aren't going to be 3% again or 4%, hopefully, because that's endemic of something very bad that's happening. But I think that we're just sort of starting to settle into the new norm. And there were days where people were getting mortgages at 10%, 16%, 20%. Hopefully we never get that high. So I think we from the business standpoint at NFM, we continue to look for ways to be efficient and to be able to scale up and down quickly, as painful as it is, to not hire all of our staff from domestically. We are about 20% of our workforce is coming from overseas between the Philippines and India. And it's made a big difference. It's made a big difference in two ways. You wouldn't think that it would make the difference in this way, but we're actually saving so much money and picking up so much productivity, which is puzzling. You're like, well, they're so far away. Do they sound like, yeah, you know what? It works. It works really well. Philippines for the LP stuff, India for some of the cookie cutter conventional loans. And so what it enables you to do is scale up and scale down in the times of distress. So I think if you're prepared in that way, and you've got to continue to drive down the cost to produce, the AI tool that we've developed that's proprietary to NFM, we have our own GPT. Most companies are using out-of-the-box solutions, not us. We have something so fascinating that benefits the LO as far as pipeline management and talking to the CRM and not having to leave the system ever to be able to touch your clients and know when opportunities are coming up. And then on the personal side, from the brand, trying to figure out what I want to do with all of us, because it just exploded. It came out of nowhere last year, and trying to figure out what the purpose of it is going to be and how many people I can bring along for the ride. So that can be a lot of things, trying to figure that out. But the most important thing to me is to continue to just be a truth seeker and to share opinions and to bring more people off the bench. And that's what 2024 was about. People coming off the bench, people getting courage in their voice. And I want more of that. There's so many more people, great people. Like, I really saw the spirit of this business that I know that I've loved.
Yeah.
I knew the reason I've loved it for 26, 27 years. I knew it. But in 2024, I felt it. I felt it in my soul. And I'll tell you right now, not just because you're here, HousingWire was an absolute catalyst in bringing that out of me and bringing us all together. So thank you for asking the question.
Yeah, no, I love to hear that. We have 30 more seconds. I'd love to ask you about servicing and how you're guarding against the servicers taking your refi business.
Well, that's an interesting question, because depending on how you sell your servicing, in some instances, to get a higher premium, you give away the right to contact the borrower until that loan is taken out. So we've got a combination of both going on. I think we're more focused on when is the right time to get back into the servicing game. Mm-hmm. If you have good tools in place, like the AI tool that I talked about, if you are doing the right things to stay in front of your consumers, the one that you are legally able to refi that servicers hold, then you're in good shape. You know, and they're just truthfully not that many of us out there eating the pie anymore. You know what I mean, buddy?
I know what you mean.
This has been great. So when can people, you're behind that microphone a lot. So when can people find you?
Yeah. So, HousingWire.com is our website. I host the Powerhouse podcast, which publishes weekly on Thursday mornings and is with top mortgage and real estate CEOs and other C-suite leaders. And then I do 10-minute talks, which, are just kind of in between and talking to the industry about, the hot topics of the day. So that's probably, those are the big three. And of course you can find me on LinkedIn. I've been following in Greg's footsteps, trying to grow my network and make some business happen on that platform.
Yeah, we got a few people commenting here. Brian View says we're two of his favorite guys.
Brian's a good dude.
Here to learn from you, Diego Sanchez. George Milan, this is good information and content. Brooke, I always forget how to pronounce her last name. Lapides, she's amazing. Is that the right pronunciation, Diego? What do you think?
I'm thinking Lapides.
Lapides, probably, yeah. Greg Sher's feeling spicy on a Monday morning. I'm always feeling spicy. Hey, this has been great. I really appreciate your time. Thank
Greg,
you.
I was so honored that you asked me to join you. This has been awesome.
Appreciate you, and of course, appreciate Donna Chajewski for hitting all the right buttons backstage. We'll see you again next Monday on 101 at 1 o'clock Eastern. Have a great week, everybody. See you, Diego.
Bye.
Take care.